Thank you for joining us on another edition of Frontier Opening Bell. I'm Temple Ashaju. With us on the show this morning, we've got Onyeka Ijoma, industrial goods analyst with Vetiva Capital Management, and our executive editor at Frontier Africa Reports, Boson Amofaye. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the show this morning. Let's kick in with the indexes that we track. Nigeria's number one, it was down yesterday, 0.13%. This week has been negative so far. Ivory Coast was negative as well, 0.83%, perhaps as a result of some profits taken there. The Egyptian stock market was also down to 65 basis points on Tuesday, and Kenya rose further by 1.03%. Johannesburg Stock Exchange positive by 16 basis points. Moving on to the Eastern African headlines that we have here, Fitch Ratings put Ethiopia to triple C on G20 debt talks. Kenya Parliament to consider budget policy statement 2021-2022 approval. All that before the 15th of this month. That's next week Wednesday in Target. M-Pesa is Kenya's top brand for 2021 by Super Brands. EcoBank Kenya, DPA, would sign a solar deal for 7 branches. And of course, Kenya Deposit Insurance says banks pay some 5.5 billion shillings premium in December. Mississippi Africa, Kenya's housing and real estate to grow by in 2021, this calendar year, though, this fiscal year. Bosun, I'll come to you with these headlines. I don't know which you would like to actually have a go with.
I think I would, quite a couple of these stories are very interesting, quite heartbroken that Ethiopia is now caught into the CCC. We all knew what will happen once you go into the G20 debt conversation. Nigeria has remained stubbornly out of the G20 conversation, says it's not asking for any debt rescheduling, no debt forgiveness whatsoever. Nigeria hasn't changed its stance. South Africa hasn't changed its stance as well, even though they're making requests for additional budgetary support from the World Bank and the IMF at some point. However, for Ethiopia to make this is just very simple. Fitch just caught Ethiopia into the conversation. And I'm sure a number of people already were aware that this was likely going to happen. In terms of the deposit insurance payment by banks in Kenya, I think it all makes sense because they wrote a whole lot of the messy COVID-19 business loans in the country. We saw that the numbers for the earnings for most of the banks in Kenya were not really looking good. The IMF report on Nigeria, which was released on Monday, also told the Nigerian authorities not to extend the moratorium that was given to bank customers on their debt, which was due to COVID-19. The IMF warned Nigeria to keep it time-bound. It shouldn't be an elastic one. So it should be time-bound. We haven't heard from the authorities. It was done last year. We don't know what's going to happen this year. And now the IMF has warned Nigeria not to make it an open-ended check. And of course, the debt relief to bank customers or bank businesses should not be given to those who have pre-COVID-19 problems. In other words, if your business is being run down before COVID-19 period, you should not qualify for that debt relief by the Nigerian banks. So it's understandable why insurance premium by deposit by banks in Kenya had gone up. And I think the final point I want to make is on the M-Pesa. M-Pesa with Safaricom is being a golden boy of the Kenyan fintech space. Remember the Nairobi Securities Exchange a few days ago just tied a relationship with Safaricom, which is the owner of M-Pesa, in terms of the trading engine and all of that for the Nairobi boss, which is another good one. M-Pesa now the top brand in Kenya. You can't fight that. You can't contest it. And finally, EcoBank Kenya working with the DPA was good. Can we use the same approach in Nigeria to use solar to power a whole lot of branch network and whatever? Can we take it even beyond the banking space? That would be good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bosin. Switching our gears now to the Western African headlines. We've got BOA Group Chairman Rabiu admitting that cement pricing is unfair to Nigerians, and of course he says, I am part of it, but I know it is wrong, says Rabiu, the chairman of BOA Group. BOA Group also has some kind of a controversy that has been brewing over the weekend with Kakovid, which is an entity that has been for financing the welfare of Nigerians in recent times since COVID-19 actually broke out in that West African country. So there's this face-off between them over the 1 million naira, 1 million units or doses of AstraZeneca vaccine. You've got Suno Assurance 3 billion PPO grabbing 100% via two investors, and in Cote d'Ivoire they did a successful capital raising. I'll come to you, Onyeka, with all of these developments that we're having in the market as it relates to Bois Cement, which is an industrial goods giant. I mean, we all know this COVID thing and the whole competition in the cement space regarding as it also relates to the pricing of cement. Wade into it and give us a perspective, please.
Thank you, Temple. I mean, a lot of interesting headlines there. We see that the Bois Group has been in the headlines a lot this past week. The vaccine, the payment for the vaccines, it's a very very important one. We know that the federal government. Has a target to vaccinate about 40% of the Nigerian population, which is about 80 million Nigerians before the end of the year. At the moment, looking at how many vaccines we've been able to secure so far, at least based on the announcements from the Ministry of Health and from some of the other federal government channels, we are at less than 25% in terms of vaccination capabilities. And when you consider that this is most of these the vaccines that we're getting require double doses, it actually takes it down to somewhere between 12 and 13%, in terms of our goal. So the Bois Group announcement is actually a very welcome one. I would urge the CACOVID and Bois Group to resolve their differences, because at the moment we really need to what I would say is that we need to move forward on getting more vaccines. As it stands, we haven't gotten any clear details on how much the federal government is willing to push out from its own finances. Most of the vaccine announcements that we've seen have come from either the African Union under the COVAX initiative, the Gavi, Global Alliance for Vaccinations under the same COVAX initiatives, and from the private sector now with Bois Group, and with further expected from the CACOVID, the coalition, and also we'll be waiting for further details from the federal government to see how much they are willing to actually stake in to hit this target. But it does look like it is quite possible. I think the key thing right now will be just hoping that we don't have a situation, we don't have the same kind of situation we saw in South Africa, where the Oxford vaccine does not, will not be proven effective in Nigeria, because we know that the cost of both purchasing and the logistics cost of maintaining warehousing and transporting the other vaccines are much higher than Nigeria. We know that Nigeria is very cash strapped at the moment. On the cement pricing story, we know that cement prices in Nigeria is one of the highest in the world, and this is as a result of the few players we have in the market. And quite rightly, I remember he said in his speech that the market is engineered to help just a few domestic players. The policies are engineered to help just a few domestic players thrive in the Nigerian cement market, and it has created very weak supply dynamics where we do not have backups, and in case where we have a shutdown, a malfunction in one of the operational cement plants in Nigeria, we immediately see supply to the market fall significantly, thus raising the prices of cement. We've seen that occur a few times over the years, and this tends to push cement prices even higher in a country where we already have one of the highest cement prices in the world. And basically what he was trying to allude to was just a further reopening of or a further opening of the cement market to other exports. In some countries have smaller, production capacity, further production mills and production factories, that have been approved by the government. Here in Nigeria, we tend to either have integrated plants or no plants at all. And if we're able to see more grinding plants, more fractional plants in Nigeria, then we could benefit from the increased supply to the market, which could lead to a fall in cement prices. Which is very important. As the real estate sector accounts for a huge part of the Nigerian economy. And then just speaking further on the Ivory Coast story, I think it's actually very good news, especially looking at the rates at which Ivory Coast were able to secure the funds that they raised, between 5% and 4%, if I remember correctly, between 5% and 4%, something like that, and Cote d'Ivoire, like many other West African and Sub-Saharan African countries, has been hit very hard, by the COVID. It does show that there's still significant appetite for for debts in the international market for West African countries, which is very important for a country like Nigeria that has been contemplating going back into the international debt markets to raise funds for much needed infrastructure development. And it might be the key signal that the country has been waiting for, to see whether they can step back into the international market. However, I must say that one key thing that helped Ivory Coast, which Nigeria might need to work on before they step back into the market, is that Ivory Coast has been able to take significant policy measures to support the industries which generate the bulk of their foreign exchange receipts, most especially the cocoa export industry in Ivory Coast, where the living income differential to farmers has been a significant power move, from two West African countries in the world of cocoa. Where and this is one of the first international coalition we've seen in that space. It has boosted the price of cocoa in the international market and is likely to support foreign exchange earnings. So I believe that foreign investors were willing to push funding into Ivory Coast because those policies have supported stability in foreign exchange earnings. Nigeria might need to do the same. The energy industry, I'm here thinking about the petroleum industry bill in its different forms and in its different segments. And if we are going to step back into the international market, we need to make very strong policy statements, just the way Ivory Coast has done. Thank you.
Onyeka, thank you very much for taking us this deep dive into the Western African space. So, Bosun, any contributions before we move to the Southern African space?
Well, I'll just say a few things very quickly around the cement industry. How did Nigeria get into a monopoly of 2 or 3 major cement makers? We all know how we got to this mess, and it's not very difficult. We had cement during the military era in Nigeria, during the military regimes. There were cement companies in almost every state in Nigeria. Ogun State had one. It was in Sokoto. There was in Kalagu. In Enugu, you had cement companies, cement producers, like Onyeka is talking about, smaller ones now across the country. We used to have them. Then Benue State had one, which was in Boko. And I was there as a journalist when it was run under the Benue State government. But over time, just like we had breweries all over the country before, in almost every state in Nigeria, in Jos, in Plateau, in Cross River, in Oyo State, in Osun State, we had breweries all over the place. Then suddenly, they all began to collapse. And one of the key problems for the brewers and the cement companies then was electricity. And the unfair practice of importing cement, which was dominated back then by WAPCO Cement, which is now Lafarge Africa. We all knew that Lafarge was a monopoly in Nigeria for decades. just the way Julius Berger was in the construction sector. Then that became a big problem until Dangote came on the stream. Then Boa Cement also started. Now, what they have done was to start consolidating, start buying some of this more. So Dangote started by buying the Boko Cement by Benue BCC, which was privatized. He bought it up, then it started expanding. Then we run into what we have today now. Now we want to go and set up, see, who has what it takes today to set up a cement plant? Look, it's not about licensing them. So I don't like populist statement. I'm sorry, with due respect to Rabiu, the chairman of Boa Group. Look, the point is that to do cement today, you need to build a whole power plant, Temple. Is that not so? You need a whole power plant. So your investment in the power plant alone is enough to set up a cement plant. So you have the limestone all over the country. Yes, we all have it under our houses where we sleep, under our bed. But the question is that, do you have the dollars to build a power plant and everything, the chain that is involved? The roads are still very, very bad. How do you move your finished products out of it? Look at the number of trucks that Dangote Cement has on the roads. It has about 8,000 trucks within the Dangote Industries alone. 8,000. That means about 16,000 drivers with assistants. Look, it's a whole mess in the country right now. So the whole, what you will be paying, look at the price of petrol or diesel to run those trucks to distribute the cement. Okay, so the cost associated with cement, it's not, that's why the cement price, it is high. Let's be honest here. It's difficult for anybody else to come into the system. It's not that the government is not willing, or maybe some folks have not tried to get a license. But the question is that, are you the roads, the truck, do you have what it takes to buy 16,000 or 6,000 trucks into the country and import it from Germany or from France to start distributing your cement? The cost is humongous. So we're going to have these few players meantime. So what we need to do is for the Senate or the National Assembly to get on with the anti-competition agency, the NCCC, whatever, and see how they can muzzle in regulatory on these cement producers. And if government keeps repairing the roads and other things, then the cost associated with transporting cement from one part of the country to the other will be very reduced. That's where the problems really are.
Right, right. Thank you very much, Bosun. I mean, ironically, we still need the cement guys to give us the cement to make these roads, actually, because the rainforest part of Nigeria actually needs cement and concrete, actually, for the good roads to actually remain there. And that is where you have the economic hub of the nation. Moving on to the South African space, because we're running short of time and we have just less than 5 minutes or 4 minutes to go. MTN is big. I mean, they're trying to reduce their debt. They're selling their stake, 20% stake in Belgacom, also Proximus of Belgium, and that is actually to help them reduce debt. Anglo Gold Ashanti is earnings tripling by some on 27% gold rise in price. And of course, Botswana posts some 14.3 billion for January to November budget deficit. Nedbank denies SA corruption role. Shares fell yesterday, Tuesday, by 9%, 8.7% specifically. Bosun, we need your editorial judgment here.
Well, I think Anglo Gold is not any brainer at all. We're still around 1,800, 400 on the dollars per ounce. So it's still a gold world, by the way. So it's not going, it doesn't look like it's going to go down anytime soon. So I don't think that is any big news as it were. Anglo Gold, Ashanti will keep making money. The story is about MTN selling down to Belgacom, to Proximus and all of that. MTN needs this money, according to that report from South Africa yesterday. MTN is owing, the last figure I got is about 60 billion rand that MTN is owing in debt. So they're trying to sell this 20% stake, get out of it completely, use that money to pay part of their dollar-denominated debt, because they're seeing that, look, the dollar is weak right now, so you better pay down your debt very quickly before dollar becomes very strong again, then it becomes difficult for you to do. So I think that's what they want to do. They're keeping the local part of the debt, want to pay up on the dollar side of it. And this transaction is coming through with about $174 million or so. That's quick, easy, cheap money, that free money that they can quickly use to pay up. I think it makes good sense.
All right, thank you so much. Moving on to the Northern African space, Afreximbank is to approve some new trade financial or finance intermediaries in 2021. Argotech Egypt launches new digi system to solve queuing issues. HC Securities says no deal with Bank du Caire for likely acquisition. And of course, Morocco's Emerson PLC obtains mining license for the Kemisate Potash project. Bosun, you're the one to come to again before I get the buying of Onyeka on the Afreximbank story.
I think the Afrexim story is what I want to comment on, really. But again, I think I'll defer that to Onyenka for his comment first.
Okay, Onyeka. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, the TFIs have actually been helpful in recent time. They've amounted to 65 across 30 countries. They're supposed to be playing the role of, as it says, intermediary for Afrexim Bank and, of course, key retail and corporate entities around Africa.
When the AFCFTA story came up, and when it was just still the brainchild of some particular governments in Nigeria, in Africa, one of the key issues that came up that arose from looking at trade in Africa was trade financing. There is a shockingly low amount of trade financing available for intra-Africa trade, as opposed to trade with other continents, largely because the trade finance and trade government bodies are across these other continents were able to sort of step in and provide trade guarantees, provide bridge financing, provide letters of credit and all the other things that were needed to support trade. And we're seeing the Afrexim Bank look at this and say, okay, in order to make this the AFCFTA a success, we need to have very strong financial institutions that are willing to do the same thing here in Africa. And I think they mentioned they were looking to select about 40 something, if I remember correctly, across Africa. And we know that we have some very strong financial institutions across the continent, in southern, most especially in northern, southern, and western Africa. In Nigeria, for example, we've seen banks like Access Bank try to position themselves, ahead of this by acquiring players in Zambia, acquiring players in Southern Africa to make themselves a more Pan-African bank and position themselves strongly across that space. Basically, the key thing I have to say is that if this is going to be a success, the trade finance intermediaries are going to play a very huge role in doing it.
Very
well said. Thank you so much, Onyeka Ijoma. Bosun, any contributions?
Yes, just to add a few thoughts there, the trade finance intermediaries, like local banks, I think we have about 8 or so of them in Nigeria or so, and the Afrexim Bank says they will do more. Again, this is all behind the new AFCFTA. Look, the banks and the payment system folks, the financial system folks are going to be at the heart of the entire AFCFTA. If you don't have financial trade intermediaries, which has been linked, look, we've been living under the stone. All of us across Africa, I'm sorry, with due respect to everyone, I'm an African 100%. But see, everybody's been living in his own village and town, which we call countries. We're not looking across border unless you're going to smuggle rice from Ghana or Benin Republic to Nigeria, or smuggle a tanker of petrol across the border. We don't really know ourselves. We don't trade. Our banking systems are closed, with the exception of Standard Bank, Stanbic, EcoBank, Transnational, and a few others, just about 5 or 6 banks. A whole lot of banking system exists. We don't even know their names. We don't even know ourselves, except that we're all blacks. That's all we know. So we need to open up. And one of the things that will happen is that once these banks begin to open up and have them intermediate, then you're going to see a whole lot of better even banking institutions in Nigeria. Look, when you have Access Bank intermediating in a trade between Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya in East Coast, or the Moroccan and the Egyptian bank intermediating between trade between Nigeria, Guinea, Senegal to Nigeria, look, then we're going to have banking institutions like you have in Europe. A bank sitting in London or in Germany understands the entire European economy and the markets and currencies. Banks in Nigeria, 99% of them don't know anything more than Naira and the dollar. They have no idea what is going on in any other place. To a very large extent, they have no single idea. So opening up the banking system in Africa, make them cross-border, you understand what I'm saying, is one of the best ways to even strengthen our banking institutions, strengthen our regulations. It even put the regulators like Central Bank and others on their toes, because now they'll be dealing with banks that are international in nature, because even if we call it Pan-African, it's still international once you cross the borders. So if you have a bank in Nigeria or in Ghana that is dealing with 54 countries in Africa, that is an international bank. That is the way to go. We will see a whole lot of better, and we all can do a whole lot more within that space. So I think the AFCFTA will do a whole lot more for us than just trade. That's my thinking as a journalist.
I think more significantly is the fact that if we have this, it will help us moderate the pressure that we have in exchange rates across the continent. Thank you very much, Bolson Omofaye, Executive Editor at Frontier Africa Reports, Onyeka Ijeoma, Industrial Goods Analyst from Vetiver Capital Management. I appreciate your deep insight into all of these headlines today. I'm Temple Ashaju. This has been Frontier Opening Bell. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.